Now, despite a very underwhelming 2023 season, a lot of people, well, like myself, thought that the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to rebound in 2024 and make the playoffs. But as it stands right now, they are currently 2-6 and they are a fucking disaster to say the least. So, in today's video, let's explore why the Jaguars have been so bad this year and talk about the future outlook not only for this year, but also beyond. Now, before we do get started, of course, go ahead and hit that like button if you guys end up enjoying the video, since it really does help out the channel. And of course, subscribe if you guys are new and you guys enjoy content like this. That way you don't miss out on any new videos like the one you're watching right now. But hey, without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get things started. Now, for starters, Jacksonville's offense has been pretty inconsistent this year for the most part. They have picked it up lately, which is good, but against the Browns, Bills, and Bears, they were pretty bad offensively, but they were solid against the Dolphins, and they were good against the Packers, Patriots, Colts, and Texans. Now, the main reason why I think their offense has been so inconsistent is because of their coaching staff. I mean, Doug Peterson, he's been an awful head coach, and him and Press Taylor, their offensive coordinator, they have been awful play callers, and it's really held back this offense. You know, along with that, I am starting to get the feeling that Doug Peterson is starting to lose the locker room and that guys are losing faith in him, as in their loss versus the Chicago Bears, the effort was absolutely pitiful, and that is not something you like to see if you are a Jaguars fan. I know Doug Peterson showed promise in 2022 as this team's head coach, but ever since then, it's just been downhill. And while I don't love to advocate for guys getting fired, since these coaches are human beings, Jacksonville has to fire Doug Peterson and Press Taylor by at least the end of the year, because simply put, Doug Peterson, he's just not it as this team's head coach. I mean, the Jaguars, their offense should be a lot better. It should be a lot more consistent, given the kind of talent that they have on that side of the ball. And along with that, Jacksonville has enough talent to at least be like a 3 to 4 win team. They should not be a 2-win team. So the fact that the Jaguars have been, are a 2-win team right now when they shouldn't be, that's a very big indictment on him. And along with that, he was brought in to try and help Trevor Lawrence become an elite quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence still hasn't taken that leap to being an elite quarterback, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. So yeah, that's another big indictment on Doug Peterson as well. I mean, simply put, he's just been very bad for this team. The Jaguars' offensive line, it's been fine. They are 14th in pass block win rate according to ESPN, and that's not too bad. However, they are also 23rd in run block win rate according to ESPN. As far as the individual players on their offensive line go, most of their starters have actually been good individually. Anton Harrison has been mediocre though, as while he has been a solid run blocker, his pass blocking has been pretty bad. But Ezra Cleveland, Brandon Sheriff, and Mitch Morse, they've all been good individually. They did trade away Cam Robinson recently, so we'll see how Walker Little, the guy that who's currently slated to be their new starting tackle after trading away Cam Robinson, we're gonna see how he fares. But outside of their run blocking, I don't think their offensive line has been dreadful like it was last year. But now let's talk about the man himself, Trevor Lawrence. Now, Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good the last few weeks, but he had an inconsistent start to the year, and he still hasn't taken that leap to being an elite quarterback, as I said before. And that is pretty disappointing when you consider the fact that he was touted as a generational prospect coming out of Clemson, and he got a massive extension because the Jags banked that he would take that kind of leap. And since he was touted as a generational prospect and was good in 2022 and the first half of 2023, a lot of people hope that he would become an elite quarterback, within 2 to 3 years, or they would hope that he'd become an elite quarterback soon, but he just hasn't taken that leap yet. So, he does, in my opinion, he does deserve some blame, because again, he does have consistency issues, and he still hasn't taken that leap to being an elite quarterback, despite the fact that he was touted as a generational player. But with that said, I don't think he's the main problem with Jacksonville. I think the main problem is their coaching, and I do think that if he did have better coaching, a better coach, maybe he could be a more consistent player, and maybe he could take that leap. We'll just have to see if Trevor Lawrence eventually does, fix those consistency issues, and if he can take that leap into being an elite quarterback. Now, unfortunately for the Jaguars, Christian Kirk is now out for the season with a collarbone injury, and Brian Thomas is also going to miss 2 to 4 weeks, and that is absolutely devastating to say the least. As Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk are their top 2 wide receivers, and not having them, that really sucks, and that is not going to help their offense whatsoever. And if Trevor does play well, their offense can still be serviceable, but again, those 2 injuries are absolutely devastating, and who knows, maybe the Jaguars offense for a few games, while they miss Brian Thomas, goes back to being pretty bad. But yeah, simply put, the Jaguars offense, again, while they have been good lately, they have been pretty inconsistent overall this season. Now, as far as their defense goes, the Jaguars have been abysmal. Currently, they're the 2nd worst team defense, the 2nd worst passing defense. They allow the 4th most points per game. They are the 5th worst red zone defense, the 8th worst 3rd down defense. They allow the 3rd most points per drive, and they rank low in many efficiency categories. And to go along with that, according to ESPN, they're 29th in pass rush win rate and 24th in run stop win rate. And it's truly disappointing since they have the talent to be a much better unit than this. And I thought Ryan Nielsen would be a really good defensive coordinator for them since he was good for the Falcons last year, but I mean, this is just not a good look on his part. I mean, maybe he could, maybe next year he can look a lot better as a defensive coordinator and lead like and coach up a very good defense, but I mean, this is just not a good look for him because again, I mean, the Jaguars, they have the talent to be a solid defense, but their defense as it stands right now has been one of the worst in the NFL when it really shouldn't be. And I know that Tyson Campbell and Foye Oluokun have missed several games this year. The offense being inconsistent also doesn't help at all. But their defense, again, it should not be this bad. Josh Hines-Allen, he has been tremendous for Jacksonville. Trayvon Walker has been fine. Devin Lloyd, he's also been fine. But pretty much everyone else has been bad. I mean, especially Eric Armstead. He's been very disappointing for Jacksonville, which is really disappointing because when the Jaguars signed him, many people hoped that he could be a massive addition, but that just hasn't been the case so far. And again, like I said before, this talent for them to be a solid defense, it's there. The guys, the players just have to play up to that level, and the coaching just has to be better. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, even though Foye Oluokun and Tyson Campbell are back, I don't really see the Jaguars defense all of a sudden, having like a drastic turnaround. I think they might be a little bit better, but I don't think they're going to go from like a bottom 3 unit to like a top 10 defense or anything like that. And unfortunately, I think the Jaguar season is over at this point. I really don't see them turning it around unless Doug Peterson is fired right now and the guy to be there who replaces him as their interim head coach is that good. And if their defense drastically improves. I mean, chances are they end up with a top 5 to 10 pick. And I think they will, and I think they should fire Doug Peterson. I mean, the Jaguars this year, again, I just can't see them being very good, just given the fact that, again, their offense has been inconsistent this year. Christian Kirk is now out for the season. Brian Thomas is going to miss a few games. Their coaching is terrible, and their defense, again, it's been awful, and I don't really see them getting that much better. And even though I think this year has been terrible for the Jaguars, and I think they will, again, end up with like a top 5 to 10 pick, they do have the pieces and the talent to be a good team. What they need mostly is good coaching, and assuming that they do fire Doug Peterson, they need to nail this next head coach hiring, and they gotta revamp this coaching staff and get the right guys in, because if they can do that and add some pieces in the offseason via the draft and free agency, then the Jaguars, they can be a playoff team, and Trevor Lawrence, he can become, an elite quarterback. But the Jaguars, they're going to need to have like a really good offseason in 2025 when it comes to their head coaching hires, again, assuming they fire Doug Peterson, and when it comes to, the draft and free agency. But that's pretty much all I have to say for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Again, like, subscribe, do all of that, and then check me out on social media. The links to my Instagram and Twitter, they are in the description below. But without further ado, I'm out, you guys.